Hello and welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, my name is Tristan, and I guess welcome for the first time. And today I actually want to talk about something that I wish I knew a few years back when I was doing my undergrad in college. It's been about 3 years now since I completed that. I'm actually doing my MBA, so I guess still kind of going to school. But I want to talk about 7 different ways that you can make money while going to school, and most of them revolve around not working for someone else. Now, I know there's a lot of videos like this out there about different ways that you can make money and side hustles and things like that. However, with all the ones I've watched, I never really felt comfortable doing most of those ideas. And with me being a little bit more of a shy person, I wanted to talk about 7 different ways that I feel like I could actually do, or at least that I've seen a ton of my friends doing that's really successful, and I wanted to share those with you. And if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a like. It really helps out my channel a ton and I really appreciate it. And also go ahead and hit that subscribe button so that you can see future content. Now, although this is a list of ideas of things that you can do while in college to make a little bit of extra money, of course you can do these without going to college. You can do these whether you just graduated high school. You could technically do some of these things in high school. You could do some of these things while you're a lot older if you just want a side gig. But really, one thing that I noticed is that while you're in college, you have a lot of great connections, and I'll be talking about some of those connections while going through some of these ideas. However, some of them just off the top of my head is if you're in a college Facebook group, maybe you have an apartment complex that has a Facebook group as well, you just have a lot of different connections to a lot of different people around your same age, or just a bigger network because you're going to school. Now, of course, if you're not in college, you still do have great places like Craigslist instead of maybe an apartment Facebook group, or maybe you even have a neighborhood Facebook group. And those are also all great places to advertise your services and get new customers. Now, the first one I want to talk about is actually a really cool idea that I learned while going to school that people actually create lots of different businesses on. Now, the reason I still want to bring this up is because while going to school, I noticed that not all of my friends that lived in apartment complexes had this option, and so this would be a really good one to do. Now, this option is actually taking out people's trash. Now, of course, you're going to get a lot more customers if people are living in an apartment complex where either the dumpsters they have to go to is really far away, or it gets really cold and snows in the winter and people don't really want to go outside. Now, one thing that's really cool about this is most apartment complexes have like 30 to 50 different rooms, sometimes even a lot more than that, or even a lot less. But really, there's usually about 4 to 6, sometimes even 8 people living in one apartment. And between those 8 people, they're going to have a lot of trash. Now, with that, you can charge each roommate either $1 per week or $1 per month. Really, that's not a lot, and people see that as a really good deal to take out their trash. A great way for them to pay you is they could pay you through things like Venmo, or they can write you a check for maybe the whole year, pay you cash, whatever it may be, but they can pay you that money up front. You can keep track of all the room numbers that you're supposed to take the trash out for, and you can either do that on a daily or a weekly, or maybe a few times a week, you take out their trash on specific days. Now, just to give you an idea of how much money you can make by doing something like this, is I want to give you an example of my apartment complex. My apartment complex had 5 different floors, and it had a guy's side and a girl's side. And on each side, for each floor, it had 30 apartments. Now, that's about 300 apartments just at that one apartment complex. And with this apartment complex alone, you can make quite a bit of money. However, if you're doing it for multiple apartment complexes, you can make a lot more. Now, if you're charging them $1 a week or $4 a month, you can make roughly $4,800 every month just by taking out people's trash. Or if you do it weekly, you can still make $1,200 a month by taking out people's trash. And that is just for one apartment complex. Of course, if you are doing more apartment complexes, you can make a lot more money. Now, just to give you an idea of how this would work is, of course, you would have them pay you up front. That way you make sure you get paid for what you're doing. But really, what they do is you kind of give them a time window and you say, hey, leave your trash outside of your door at this time, on this day, or on these different days, and I'll come and pick it up. And what you do is you could actually get like 1 or 2 trash bins with wheels on it and kind of go through a whole floor and just kind of fill up your trash bins, then roll them out to the dumpster and take them out to the dumpster. Or if you just want to walk, maybe get a little bit more exercise, you can just go pick them up by hand. Maybe you can carry 4 at a time, take them to the dumpster, and then just kind of cycle through all the floors in the entire apartment complex until you finish it that night. Now, on average, you can do about 60 doors an hour, and that's being pretty conservative. But let's say you're doing 60 doors an hour and you're working 3 hours a night, so you're kind of doing this between the hours of maybe 6 and 9 p.m., then you're doing about 180 doors per day. Or if you're doing this per week, maybe you're working 5 days a week or 7 days a week, you can do a lot more doors than that. And realistically, you can do about 60 doors per hour. And so maybe let's say you're working 3 hours a night, you can do about 180 doors per night. And with that, you may have to service each apartment about 3 times, maybe 4 times a week, just because they'll probably have a lot of trash. But really, you can pretty easily do an entire apartment complex with 300 rooms in 15 hours a week. Now, if you're charging $1 per month to take out people's trash and you're working 15 hours a week, you'll make about $20 an hour doing all of that. Now, one thing to make sure you remember is it's $1 per person per month. And so if there are 4 people living in the apartment complex, that's going to be $4 per month for that door. Now, if you charge each person $4 per month, which really isn't that big of a difference, instead of making $20 an hour, you're now going to be making roughly $80 an hour just for taking out people's trash, doing it 15 hours a week, making about $4,800 per month. Now, you may think that's crazy for people to want to pay that much to have their trash taken out. However, at my apartment complex, I actually paid $8 per month to get our trash taken out. And so really, you could probably even charge a little bit more than that. However, it's pretty good to start cheap. That way you can get a lot of different customers and get a lot of interest. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is car detailing. And car detailing is really great because you can either charge about $50 to $150 to detail a car depending upon what they want. And one thing that's really great about living in college and doing that, especially if you live in like a classier area, is there's a lot of people that probably do want their cars detailed because they're going on dates and they kind of want to impress people. And so maybe if they're going on an important date or it's just been a while, they want someone to clean their car, and hey, if you're the local guy that can do it, that's great. Now, unlike taking out people's trash, car detailing does probably have a little bit more overhead. You're going to need a vacuum, you're going to need sponges, you're going to need rags to wipe things down, sprays, chemicals, cleaning things, different things like that you're going to have to buy up front. However, those are probably going to last you quite a bit of time, and that's kind of built into the cost of the $50 to $150. Depending upon what they want to pay for, they'll get better service, which will probably cost you a little bit more, but again, they're paying you more, so you're probably making more money. And depending upon where you live, if you don't have access to a hose, definitely don't tell people you can wash the outside of their car. However, a lot of people will pay just to do the inside of their car, and then they'll just go to like a car wash to get the outside done. And on average, depending upon how much you're doing, detailing a car can take anywhere between 1 and 3 hours to get done. And so you can charge a little bit more if you want to, maybe even a little bit less, but still making $50 an hour, or maybe after the overhead, $40, $45 an hour is still a lot of money and a really great thing that you can do while in college. One thing that's great about detailing people's cars is if you do a good job, you'll probably have repeat customers. And so it's pretty easy to kind of get a consistent revenue stream coming in there. Especially if you do things like sell a 4 or 5 car detail package, they pay up front and they get a little bit of a discount. That way, if they don't come back, great, you made a lot of money for doing not a lot of work. Or if they do come back, you just have those consistent customers. Now, the next thing is probably one of the most common businesses that you can start, and it may seem crazy to bring it up while you're in college, but that's mowing people's lawns. And of course, you're gonna have to have a lawnmower and a weed whacker and trash bags and maybe even like a truck to haul things away or things like that. But really, lawn mowing can be such a great business to start. Mowing people's lawns, depending upon how big they are, what type of neighborhoods they live in and things like that, can make you anywhere from $20 to $80 per lawn that you mow. And that's gonna take you roughly 1 to 2, maybe 3 hours, depending upon everything that you offer and everything that you wanna do. One thing that's super important about mowing people's lawns is usually when someone wants to pay for that, they don't just want to pay you to do as good of a job as they can, they expect you to be good at it. So make sure that you're actually good at doing it, and that way you can provide a nice looking lawn for them at the end, and that way you can kind of come back on a weekly basis. But one thing that's really awesome about that is with mowing people's lawns, you usually are coming back on a weekly basis. And so once you find a few customers that really like what you do, you don't have to go out and sell your services anymore, and you can just have that repeat business and have that money coming through. And on average, you're probably gonna make about $20 an hour doing this. It's not as lucrative as some of the other things I've talked about, but it is good, consistent money, and that pays a lot more than a lot of other college jobs. And with this one, it can be kind of seasonal depending upon where you live in, and so the opposite of mowing someone's lawn is probably shoveling someone's snow. And with that, you really only need a snow shovel, maybe a bag of salt to kind of put on their driveway after, but you can really charge $15 to $20 for a heavy snowfall when you go and shovel that. And you're not gonna be shoveling every day, you're really only gonna shovel on the days it snows. However, you can offer a service of, hey, I will shovel your snow between these months for this cost per month, and maybe that's gonna be $100 per month, but really, you only actually end up shoveling it 3 or 4 times during that month, depending upon how hard it snows. Now, one thing about snow shoveling is you actually do need to get there early in the morning or right after a heavy snowfall, so you need to make sure you're available and you provide good customer service for that. However, shoveling snow, again, can make you $15 to $20 an hour depending upon how long it takes you, maybe even more than that if it doesn't snow a ton that month and you get a really good deal and kind of get off easy. Now, the fourth thing I want to talk about is repairing someone's phone screen. Now, if you go to like an Apple store or something like that, they're probably going to charge you $120 to $130 just to get your phone screen repaired. And really, a lot of that cost is actually just in labor. Now, I actually learned this one personally. I broke my phone screen a few years back, and instead of paying those $130 prices, I actually wanted to figure out how much I could do it on my own. And I bought a phone screen on YouTube that I still use today, a few years later, for $40. Watched a YouTube video, in about 10 minutes, learned how to repair my phone screen myself. Now, unfortunately, in my case, I made a mistake the first time I did it, and I actually broke something on my phone, so I had to order another part, but that was only like $15. However, after I got that done, I repaired my own phone for about $55 in about an hour's worth of time. Now, that was just the first time I did it. The second time I did it, it was a lot quicker. It probably took about 30 minutes. I didn't make a mistake, and so again, it was probably about $40 to repair my phone screen. It took me an extra 30 minutes, but however, I'd probably be spending that same 30 minutes just driving to a store. And so with that, if you want to charge someone to repair their phone, you could still charge like $60, $70, even $80 depending upon the phone, the type of screen they want. Or maybe you charge a flat fee of like, hey, I will repair your phone screen for $30 or $40, and then depending upon what screen you want, whatever the cost is, you'll be paying for that. And that's a really great business. It's a little bit harder because people don't always consistently break their phone, so you have to make sure you're kind of well known and people know that you repair phone screens. That way when it does happen, they'll come to you. But really, when that does come, and it could just be kind of a side hustle to your main job, you can make $30, $40, $50, $60 an hour just repairing phone screens, and it's super easy, low stress, and people are usually pretty satisfied as long as you know what you're doing. Now, number 5 is something that I haven't actually done. However, I've looked a lot into it, I've considered doing it, and I've known some people who have done it. And so with that, I want to talk about driving for like something like Uber or Postmates or DoorDash. Maybe even Lyft, whether you're kind of being a taxi driver and delivering people, or you're delivering food, maybe even delivering groceries. And the main thing is there, you have to have a car, and preferably a car with good gas mileage. But driving for one of these services can really make you about $10 to $30 an hour, depending upon if you're doing it during peak times, what type of car you're driving. Maybe if you live in a big city or on a college campus, you can actually drive a bike and deliver food. And so you cut out all those car costs completely. You don't have to worry about gas and insurance. But these services are pretty easy to start. You just download the app, you sign up, you wait for customers to come to you. If you're not kind of that salesy type person, it's nice because all the business comes to you. You just kind of drive, get your job done. You work when you want to work, so you can work odd hours. And what's really nice, if you're doing this in college, you're usually probably staying up pretty late. There's a lot of college people that actually use these services, and so they're probably wanting food late as well. And so being able to deliver and feed that market really, really helps. But let's say on average you make even $10 to $15 an hour doing this. That's going to be the same about your average college job. However, you get to work your own hours. You don't have to worry about working for someone else, being stressed. It's a pretty relaxed job and something that anyone can really do as long as you have a car. Now, this next one is a little bit different and something that I personally wouldn't do myself. However, I have had a lot of friends who've done it and has been very successful doing it, and that's working summer sales. Now, this one isn't really one that you do while going to school. You kind of take the summer off to do this, but summer sales, whether that's selling security, pest control, you name it, there's a lot of different summer sales programs, especially here in Utah. It seems like it's the thing that everyone does during summer. But the reason I wanted to bring it up is because you can make so much money doing this. On the low end, if you stick it out for the summer, you probably make $16,000 to $20,000 during that summer. However, on the high end, I've heard of people making hundreds of thousands of dollars doing this, especially after your first year. People always say that first year is the hardest. However, after that, it seems like you make twice as much or at least 50% more. And so let's say you're going in and you kind of have an average first year of making $30,000 in that summer, which is usually a 3 to 4 month period. That next year you're going to make $45,000 to $60,000, and then your third year you're going to be making that $90,000 to $100,000, and that is a really, really good job and can make it so you don't have to work for the rest of the year. Now, one thing to know about summer sales is you have to be a salesman. This isn't a job for anyone, and you are most likely going to be knocking doors, going to a state that you're not already living in, so you probably will have to pay for rent where you're currently living and that next place you're going to be living. Or if you're smart and you kind of figure it out beforehand, you can make it so that you're not paying rent over the summer while you're gone. But summer sales is grueling. You're going to be working like 10, 12, 14-hour days, whereas in a normal job, you probably wouldn't be working that much. And so you have to make sure you're up for it. But if you are a good salesman, you can make a ton of money, and that's kind of why I wanted to bring this one up, because it kind of supplements the rest of the year, and this could even become a full-time career for you. Now, this next one I want to bring up, number 7, is also kind of a method that you probably wouldn't expect to see on this type of video, but that's actually just getting a normal on-campus job or just a normal job in general. The reason I recommend an on-campus job is because there's a lot of on-campus jobs that's like a computer lab or a receptionist or things like that, where you can either watch Netflix or do homework while working that job. And it may seem crazy, like, oh, no one would ever let you do that while working, but really, when you're in college, there are a ton of places that do, whether you're not being supervised and you're really just able to do it because your job doesn't demand that much. Let's say you're a computer lab monitor. Really, you just help people if they have questions, make sure people aren't breaking the rules or like bringing food or drinks in, things like that, maybe restocking the printer paper trays every once in a while, but you have a lot of time to do stuff for yourself. And even though these jobs usually only pay $10 to $12 an hour, you're getting paid $10 to $12 an hour to do homework. And that's great. Even if you have another job where you actually work the full time and you don't kind of have time to do homework, this time is essentially getting paid to do things that you would already be doing outside of work, which is super nice. And that's kind of why I wanted to add that one on here as the 7th and final one. But there you have it. Those are 7 ways that you can make money while in college that may not be the norm, or maybe they are the norm, but I gave you a few reasons why you should actually do them and how you can benefit more by doing them. And if you made it this far, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, give it a big thumbs up. It really helps out my channel. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button to see future videos that I release. I usually release them on a weekly basis, and so again, I hope you enjoyed. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.